Stick around, guys, because today on Knife Thursday we have the battle you've all been waiting for, the 940 versus the PM2. Alright guys, so I've been wanting to do this video for an awfully long time because this is a battle that rages on in the knife world. Which is the king of everyday carry? The Spyderco Paramilitary 2 or the Benchmade 940? There's tons of fanboys on both sides. I recently acquired this PM2, and so I've been actually looking for a cheap one for a long time. And if you guys watched the last video I put up about this crazy gift that I got from a subscriber, this was one of the 11 knives he gave me. So now I have the chance to put these two head to head in a cutting battle, okay? And we're going to cut all kinds of stuff today. We're going to do food, cardboard, rope, and paracord, wood. We're going to test the tips on them. We're going to do zip ties, and we're going to do some subjective testing too. So let's jump right in because I want to try to do this with as little fuss as possible. But let's go in. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the action, okay? Action just being how the knives work. Obviously, these two knives wouldn't be as popular as they are if the actions were bad. So if I'm being honest, these are both butter smooth. They flick out pretty much the exact same speed. The locks, there's no lock stick on the axis or the compression lock. So both of these work very well. Now, personally, being a left-handed guy, the axis lock is better for me because it's ambidextrous. Okay, you grip it the same way, left or right, it doesn't matter. However, with the compression lock, being a lefty, it's pretty awkward for me to pinch this in and close it one-handed, unless I did it like this and then closed it. But right-handed, it works. Now, I'm not righty, so have to give me a break here. But right-handed, normally I can do this. Right-handed, the compression lock works quite well. It's just a pinch of your finger up here, okay? Whereas the axis lock, you can pull it back with one or both fingers, okay? Action, I'm both going to give them top notches. They're both really smooth. The Spyderco is, let's see if we can see this, it's pretty much centered. It's near as makes no difference to me. And the 940, same thing. So fit and finish and, fit and finish, action, they're both excellent. You're not going to go wrong with either. Benchmade does cost more, yes. I'm not going to get into why this costs more versus this, even though they're both US made. There's a lot of factors. I'm not going to really get into that, all right? But these are both S30V steel. One has G10 liners, the other has aluminum. Okay, now let's talk about size and ergonomics before we get into the cutting tests. These knives are both, most people consider them about the same size, but when you open them up and you sit them right next to each other, there's definitely a difference. If we line these up, okay, let's line them up by the tip here. And I know this looks crooked on camera, but trust me. You'll see that the Paramilitary 2 is definitely longer, okay? But most of that length comes in the handle. You can see how much longer the handle is than the 940. But when we line up the cutting surfaces, let me stack these here. If you line them up hilt to hilt here, you'll see that the 940 actually has probably at least a 1/4 inch more cutting edge, okay? And part of that is because of this forward choil on the Spyderco. So that brings us to ergonomics. Very comfortable knife. You guys know, if you watch this channel, I don't like the way Spydercos look. I think all with the exception of a couple are ugly, butt ugly. But I cannot deny that it's a comfortable grip knife. Whether you go fully back on the handle, or whether you're up here, or whether you're in your hammer grip, or reverse grip, or basically any grip you want, it's going to be a comfortable knife. And you do have the opportunity to get right up on that blade for a lot of control. That being said, I think the 940 is just as comfortable. If I had one complaint about the Spyderco, it'd be these squared off edges. Okay, they're not, I don't know, it feels squared off, like they just slapped a couple slabs on there. Whereas the 940 has, some more radius, and it seems to just kind of fit a little better in my hand in the hammer grip. I like this better in the hammer grip, but I'd say I probably like this better with this thumb ramp in the choked up grip. So as far as ergonomics go, I think they're both very comfortable. If you like a bigger handle, this might be better for you. If you like something a little slimmer, then this might be better for you. But ergonomically, there's no problem in any grips with these. You can carry them both in just about any grip you want, you know, pinch grips and all that stuff, and they're all going to be very comfortable for you. So neither of these, I think, is going to disappoint in the ergonomics in my book. Spyderco does have more options with the carry because you can carry tip down instead of tip up, but the Benchmade, as you can see, is just tip up carry, but they're both left and right, so you got that. Very few people carry tip down anyway, but there's some that do. So if that's really important to you, maybe the Spyderco is a better choice. Okay, I kind of touched on this, but these are all my subjective tests because I think the action and the size and the ergonomics, that's all stuff that is subjective. But now I want to get onto the stuff that is objective, where there is no bias for me. It's just how the thing performs, okay? So now that we've done the subjective stuff, let's move on to the objective stuff. And the way I'm going to do it is I've got all these subjects that we're going to do, okay? And I'm going to give each of these a rating out of 5 stars. Now, before we start, let me say this. Both knives have been given a fresh 20-degree per side edge on my Wicked Edge to a mirror polish. They're both extremely sharp. I'll demonstrate the sharpness before we get started. Alright guys, so here we are at the cutting test, and first is going to be food. I've chosen apples because if you have a knife that's too thick, the apple's going to kind of crack as you cut the pieces off. The little slices will have like these cracks in them, like when I try to cut them with like a thick knife, like say my Benchmade Adamas, okay? So I wanted to do that with these first. So we'll just keep the order the whole time as the 940 first and then the Paramilitary 2 second. So let's cut these up. Okay, I had to put some effort. We see any? Okay, so you can see there's a crack. Okay, the 940 is a little thicker, and I knew it was going to do this because I've cut plenty of apples with this thing. It generally splits almost all of them. So most of these you're going to see how like it does this cracking thing where it just pops through. Okay, now if you do this with the Paramilitary 2, we'll find out that it just goes through and there's no cracks. Okay, and again, this is just because of how the blade is shaped. This also takes less effort to push through. Alright, so as far as food is concerned, I'm going to give the Paramilitary 2 the win. And as far as scores, sorry, just grabbing a bowl here. As far as scores go, I'm going to give the PM2 I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 because it really doesn't, you know, you're not going to slice much better than that through food, okay? Now I'm going to try to do this unedited in one take because I don't want anyone saying that I went off camera and sharpened either one, whoever wins at the end. So I'm going to give the PM2 a 5 for food, and I'm going to give the 940 probably like a 3. It might be kind of low for some people, but whatever. That's my honest opinion. Next is going to be cardboard. So let's get the Paramilitary 2 out of the way. We're going to do cardboard. And I'm going to do cardboard against the grain. You can see the grain going this way. I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to try to do 15 cuts in this big piece. Okay? And this is extremely awkward angle. 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I'm going to do 13 weird ones because I didn't have room for 15. Okay, so there's that. Now, going against the grain in the cardboard is always harder than zipping through it. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll go here. And do a weird 13. Okay, slipped out of there. Okay, in all honesty, in the cardboard going that direction, I couldn't tell a difference between the two. In my opinion, they pretty much cut the same on that. I don't know. I don't know if there was any more resistance on either one of them. I think they both did pretty much equally. I'm going to give them both a 4 just because I have used better knives on cardboard. But let's just give them both a 4 out of 5 on the cardboard. Okay, so next is going to be rope and cord. Now, I just realized filming this that I forgot to do the initial cut test, but I'm willing to bet that these will both, sorry for the camera there, these will both shave exceedingly easily. Yeah, okay, so they both blew the hair off my hand like nothing. So they're both still sharp even after cardboard. So there's your sharpness test. Okay, now we're going on to Sisal Rope. Okay, this stuff beats the tar out of blades, and so I think this is going to be a good test to see which of these is going to dull quicker. Okay, I know they're both S30V, but let's see the difference in heat treat between these two. So again, we'll start with the 940, and I'm going to do 30 cuts, and I am going to speed this up because you guys don't need to watch 60 cuts, okay? But I am going to do 30 on each. I know it's a lot, but these are S30V. They should be able to handle it. All right, so here we go. Okay, there's 30 cuts for the Benchmade. Now let's do our 30 cuts on the PM2. Okay, so that's 30 on both of them. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is cut this paracord. This is paracord, survival paracord. It's got fishing line and some fire starter in the middle of it, so it's a little tougher than normal stuff. I'm just going to do 3 there and 3 there. Okay, that blew through it like nothing, like nothing, like nothing. Okay, let's see. I think as far as rating these two, this probably, the Paramilitary 2, because of the blade shape, it has a little more surface to cut on because the belly isn't as steep as the 940. So it's kind of easier to push through on that stuff. So maybe the grip is slightly better for pushing through that rope than the 940. But as far as performance on how they both slice through, this has a narrower spot to do it on, but they both went through it like nothing. And the paracord, obviously, that's not a test for any real knife, but I just want to see that they can still do it. For the rope, I'm going to give an edge to the Paramilitary just because of the shape of the belly. Cutting wise, let me just say that cutting, they did exactly the same, but this was a little easier to push because it has this less severe belly. So I'm going to give the 940 a 4.5, and I'm going to give the Paramilitary 2 a 5. Okay, next thing we're going to do is carve some wood. Okay, these are about the same thickness. They're out of the same branch. They're both maple. So let's start with the 940. I'm going to sharpen one end. Okay, sharpen one end, and let's carve a notch in the other. And I'll sharpen the other end. Okay, there's 940. Jump to the PM2. Feel a little more resistance going through the wood on this, and I'm not sure why. I have noticed that carving wood with full flat grounds, full flat ground knives is never, they don't like cut in as aggressively. And I noticed that in bushcraft because I've got a couple Essies that would be amazing bushcraft knives if they were ground a little differently. Yeah, this doesn't bite as deep as the 940, and I gotta use more effort to push it through. Okay, there's that. On the wood, I'm gonna give, oh man, I keep kicking this camera, I'm sorry guys. On the wood, I'm gonna have to give the 940, the edge on that, I'm gonna give that a 5, and I'm gonna give the Paramilitary 2, I'll give it like a 3.5, because I definitely needed more effort for it, and I don't know why that is, but every full flat ground knife that I've used, or it doesn't dig into the wood. You need more effort and you need more down pressure. So we'll go there. Next is going to be boring into wood with the tips. Okay, I'm actually going to switch this and do the zip ties first, and then the wood boring, so I have this piece to bore on. So let's clear this stuff off of the table, and we will jump into doing the zip ties first. So I'll go to the 940, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get under these and wedge them and pop them up. And this is going to test heat treat and how well these things withstand this lateral pressure. Rolling underneath these is really not good for a knife at all, and it can cause chipping and rolling. So we're going to see how each of these knives perform on these zip ties. So I'm just going to lever it up. Okay. Ten zip ties each. Ooh, slipped on that one, goodness. Okay, there's the 10 with the 940. And now let's do the 10 with the Paramilitary. You can definitely feel the thinness of this tip help you get a little farther under those zip ties. Let's check the edges real quick. Okay, so can't say I feel anything there, and I can't see anything, and I don't feel any chips or see any chips here. So both the edges held up. These are both at 20 degrees per side, by the way. Now let's do some tip tests. Zip ties, they're both really easy. They blew through them like nothing. I'm going to give them both a 5 on the zip ties. Let's do boring holes with the tip. You guys can see this. I've done this a bunch on my other gauntlet videos, and I've done this before on the 940. Okay, so we're just gonna zip in there. Okay, no damage. And with the PM2, now I've always worried about doing this on a Paramilitary, because not because I thought anything would fail except for the tip. I'm confident in the lock and stuff, but this tip, when I sharpen these, this thing flexes a lot. And so I've always worried about tip strength on this. I can see some glinting. Yeah, I can feel a hang up there. Nothing there. But I do feel a bit of a hang up. I doubt this camera's going to focus on it. Let me see if I can get it to focus. I don't know that it will. But on the tip, no, it's not focusing. It's going to be stupid. On the tip, you can see where the edge has some microchipping. I wasn't expecting that, honestly. Let's do it again with the 940, see if we can get it to do the same thing. Maybe I hit a knot. Go deep with this thing, crank on it. Oh, I can't. Nothing here. I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can see it. So that you, because I want you to be able to see. Come on. You know what? Let me put this in manual focus. Sorry, guys. Okay. So can you see the little glints down there? Bring it in closer. See on the tip there, the roughness? See it right there. See those little chips? Okay, now let's bring this up. And no chipping. You can feel it with your fingernail that it's smooth. Okay, well, let's back out here and back to autofocus. So, okay guys, so on the tip test we did have some chipping in the PM2, which I'm surprised at, because normally what I've found in my sharpening is that Spyderco treats their S30V softer than the Benchmade. These are easier to sharpen than the Benchmades because they seem to be softer. So for the tip, for the wood boring, I'm going to have to give the 940 definitely a 5. And I mean, I got chipping on the PM2. I don't know whether to give like that a 1 or a 2, or I mean, it bored the hole, nicely, but it got chipping. So I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2. I'm not going to totally fail the thing because it got a little chipping, but I don't know. I'm on the fence of what to give that. It made a nice hole, so I'm going to give it a 2. Let's see if these knives are still sharp. Yeah, that still shaves. Missing some hairs, but still shaving. You know what? Let's go through some more. Let's go through a couple more pieces of rope, and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right. So let's go with the 940 first. Woo! Okay, slow down. Okay, there's 10 more. Let's do 10 more here. Even though this tip is chipped out, it still slices really nice, and I'm willing to bet that they both. Yeah, they're both shaven. See all the hair on them both. Okay, let's finish this thing up. Let's bring this train to the station here. So let's total these up. We got 15, 19, 22 plus 4.5, so we got 26.5. Okay, and for the PM2 we got 5, 10, 15, 17, 21, and 20, 24.5. Guys, I was a history major, not a math major. Leave me alone. Okay, so 940, we got 26.5, and we got 24.5 for that. So that's out of a possible 30. You know, both knives did really well. Let's just talk about a couple things before we wrap this up. Alright guys, so we see that the 940 edged it out, and really the only reason it edged it out is because this thing chipped out. Otherwise it would have been darn near equal, probably neck and neck, and the Spyderco might even have pulled ahead as far as cutting performance goes. I think they're pretty close in cutting performance. This is definitely a better slicer when it comes to food and soft stuff like that. I actually prepared dinner with this thing last night, and I can definitely tell you that the 2-point edge that it had in food is well deserved. That's just from experience using them both. Let's see. You know, a couple things. Everyone knows that I haven't bought a Spyderco. I haven't laid out my money. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, I don't like the looks, but again, that's a subjective thing. You might love the looks. It's definitely a bigger knife. I mean, the form factor is going to be quite a bit bigger in your pocket. But it is nice and slim, so I can't really say that that's a reason. I'd say one of the main reasons that I haven't bought these is because I've had a bunch of them in for sharpening with my sharpening business that I do. And like I said, I get a lot of flex on these tips, and it just, you know, I don't know, I've had quite a few Spydercos come in with broken and bent tips. And as a matter of fact, in the gift that I just got, the Endura 4 has a slightly bent tip. And it actually looks like it might have been ground down a little bit to cover that. I'm not sure. But, you know, I've seen a ton of these come in with bent tips. I think all things being equal, these knives are very comparable. But for my personal EDC stuff, I want something that's going to be a little bit stronger, because I definitely, you know, I've pried off paint cans with this, you know, the paint can lids, and done all that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that with this. That being said, if your only EDC stuff is like boxes and food, I mean, and you know, this will stand up to the overwhelming vast majority of stuff that you're going to do. But for the times that it's important, I like to have the extra strength. You can definitely see the difference in the tips here. Okay, let me zoom in on this so you guys can actually see. You know, there's your difference. Okay, this is a full flat ground with, you know, a distal taper, and you know, this is a saber grind with, I mean, you got a swedge here so it looks thinner, but it keeps most of its original blade thickness right out to here, and then it begins to taper. So there's definitely a lot more strength in the 940. Sure, the you know, the PM2 has more blade stock up here. It's thicker by the tang and the pivot, but you know, I don't know. For me, this is the difference between these two knives that really makes it for me. The rest of the stuff is just preference. They both cut really well. They're both good steels, both good companies. Spyderco is less money, but for my money, I'm going to go with the Benchmade because it has much better customer service. You know, I have a guy that sent me a Spyderco because he broke off like a ½ inch of the tip, and Spyderco will not replace the blade. They offered to regrind it for him for $40 to make it like this little stubby blade. But if you did that to a Benchmade, you send it in for the same $30 or $40 depending on the steel, you get an entire new blade, and they go through the whole rest of the knife and replace all the stuff. So I think customer service is much better on the Benchmade, and that's a big part of what you're paying. Spyderco definitely does not have the customer service or the warranty that the Benchmade does. But all in all, guys, if you're not honking on your knives and beating the tar out of them all the time, the Paramilitary 2 is going to stand up to nearly anything, with the exception of the tip. And I believe that, in my experience, Benchmade definitely does a better heat treat on their blades. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this head-to-head. For me, the subjective winner in looks and stuff is the 940, and in the cutting test, the numbers say that it barely edged this out, and the only reason it did is because this got chipping, whereas this didn't, even though I bored 2 holes with this. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to thumbs up and subscribe. God bless you guys as always, and I will catch you next time. Okay, now that the video's over, I want to just give my kind of encouraging word. And I just want to encourage you guys today to try to put yourself in other people's shoes. And basically, if we're going to put this in Christian terms, in my terms, it would be to have grace on people. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know why people do things, or why they're mad at the office, or this or that or the other thing. So give somebody a break. Give them some grace. Man, God has given us so much grace, and He loves us so much. And no matter, we mess up all the time, and we do wrong things all the time, but God always loves us. His grace is never ending. So I just encourage you guys to have grace on other people. Okay, if they mess up, if they hurt you, if they wrong you, if they make mistakes, whatever, give them some grace. Give them a break, and man, it will turn your day around. It will turn their day around, and it can really make a huge difference in somebody's life. A lot of times we think that little acts of kindness don't do much, but in my experience as a pastor and listening to people and hearing people's testimonies and what they've gone through, a lot of times it's the little things that have made the biggest differences. So I encourage you guys to have some grace today. If you don't know the Lord, you can know Him. Please contact me if you want to know more about God. You can reach me at my email, which is revhiker@yahoo.com, or you can find me on Instagram and send me a personal message, and that is @revhiker on Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless.